All right, we are ready to go. Let's do it. Episode
Yeah.
episode 10 of the 12-hour podcast.
So
Um,
we are into the double digits
we're
now.
into double digits. Welcome, Amit, to the 12-hour podcast.
And welcome Adam to our podcast.
I appreciate it.
What are you drinking now?
Same thing as always. Just plain water.
Warm water.
Plain water. It was warm, but I
When
had
the
to
call
I
started.
had to wait for somebody to get everything all set up. So now the water's cold. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. He's talking about this guy.
Yeah, that guy. Unreal.
Yeah. So every time, almost every week, I have this issue with the network, and Adam is patient enough to guide me with it and even wait for 30 minutes for the setup to get ready and to get rock and rolling.
I'm only patient because you're on the other side of the world. You're too far away for me to do very much.
Yeah, that's actually the reason of it also, because in India we really have bad internet.
Hmm.
We, I mean, we could have better internet, but of course we'll have to pay more for it.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Is that the
But the
only
normal plans,
is that the only reason why there's bad internet? Is just because folks are such as yourself are not going to pay for good internet?
yeah, I'm cheap.
Unreal. Well, what's the difference in price? What are we talking about? Like in terms of the internet you have now versus like the internet that will give you proper high speed internet.
So that would cost me around 60% more.
60% more. So like what's the cost in Canadian or American dollars? Let's do American dollars.
Okay. So in American dollars, currently it's $8 approx.
That's nothing. $8?
Of course, for America it's nothing. It's
Okay.
like three coffees or four coffees, but
Not even. It
in
could be
India
even
it
one coffee, depending on where you go.
oh, oh yeah. So yeah, so in I'll compare it in terms of coffees then. So it's one coffee for US, right? But in Indian terms, it could be 10 coffees or 12 coffees and 15 coffees.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So
So
let's see
that's
what's the equivalent of that. So if it was like 15, let's say 15 coffees. So let's say you go to like just get an average coffee somewhere. Um, Maybe I don't know. I don't drink coffee, so I'm gonna guess average coffee is $4, 40, 20, $60. Yeah. So yeah, here. So I pay. My internet is $100 every month.
that's cheap.
That's I would say like because
25 coffees.
yeah, quite a few coffees. So it's yeah, like I have the best internet that you can possibly get right now. Like I
Hmm.
get like I'm getting what is it? Like I got to look it up actually. Let's do a speed test and see what kind of internet I'm getting. Mind you, this is going to be on my phone, so I don't know if it's going to be an accurate representation because this is probably not the primary device using the internet. But let's see what it says. Yeah, it's pretty accurate. So I'm getting I get about a gig a second. So
Right.
about 1,000 megabytes a second. Download and then upload is about 50 megabytes a second, and then my ping is about 17 milliseconds.
Okay. So if I were to test my own speed, it always is somewhere around 20 Mbps at a good speed.
Hmm.
But when there is a lower connection or bad speed, it's around it can drop to 1 Mbps or 2 Mbps
Jeez,
also.
you might as well not even have internet.
That's why we have mobile internets. They work pretty good. As you
Okay,
can see, we are currently on mobile internet right
yeah,
now.
which is better for
Uh,
sure.
yeah, but it again costs even more.
Okay. What about
So,
Starlink? Have you looked at Starlink?
what is that?
Okay, so that's Elon Musk's company.
I'm pretty sure it's not here in India yet.
I don't know if I don't know. We're gonna look it up. But
Sure.
are you aware of what this technology is?
Not really.
Okay, so it's satellites that are placed in orbit around the Earth, and they're in a formation. So his idea is to make the formation large enough that it will basically cover the entire Earth. So you can get internet from anywhere. You can get internet in the middle of the ocean.
So it would be like satellite phone.
It's yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, yeah, and so it would be internet anywhere you are, no matter where you are. Could be in the most remote place in the whole entire world, and you still get perfectly good internet. And this is like high speed internet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not that we don't have high speed internet here, but as I said, they can get quite expensive.
yeah,
Yeah, so they are usually used for commercial purposes,
right,
and for domestic purposes, this is what they recommend, the medium plan or whatever you want to call it.
right, right. So if I moved to India, I'd be living like royalty.
Probably, yeah. And also, you won't have to spend too much because if you are moving to India, probably you are coming here for a job and the company is going to take care of everything.
Is it? Would you say? I think I've asked you this question before, but I forget the answer. Would you say it's relatively safe?
For guys, of course, for girls, they may have to take extra precaution.
Okay, but how about for a man such as myself? I mean, I might be noticeably different. Let's just say.
See, yes, you may have to face some racism, but most of the people would be friendly towards you, that I can assure.
Hmm.
And they would be welcoming. They'll be nice, most of the people. But of course, at certain places, there will be some people who would just get into casual racism for some laughs. Not your laughs, of course, but their own.
Right. I might. It's possible I might laugh too.
Yeah, if you get what they are trying to say,
Yeah.
maybe then
I have a pretty good sense of humor. I can handle all kinds of humor quite
yeah,
well.
then you'll be fine here.
Okay. It's interesting. Interesting.
Because to be very honest, the racism that people here do, they are not even aware of that.
Sure. For them,
Because
it's normal.
it's yeah, it's a kind of a cultural thing.
Right.
It's common to call a dark skinned person Kalu.
Okay.
Kalu is basically related to black. So they are not even aware of that.
Right. For them, it's just normal. It's not a
Yeah.
big deal. They
And
don't think anything of it.
if they see any tall person, they will call them Lambu. If they see any short
Right.
person, they will call them Chotu.
Right. Okay.
So it's kind of ingrained in our culture, and mainly it's maybe because of the movies, the old movies.
Old movies.
Yeah, because they always had these funny characters, and they gave them very generic names
Okay.
based on how they looked.
Gotcha. Okay. And I suppose often they were not the nicest names. They were racist of sorts
Sure, could be.
or
I haven't
prejudice.
seen. Yeah, stereotypical. I haven't seen many old movies, but yeah, I've seen these characters though.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So tell me, when we first connected today, before we started, you had mentioned that there was something that you wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, you mentioned the word finicky, so that reminded me of the feeling that I've been having, and
Hmm.
it's a result of something. So basically, last night I was going through some music videos and I came across this music practice known as Kharaj. It's
Okay.
basically your bass voice practice, your lower register practice.
Okay.
But it's supposed to be done only at early hours of the morning.
Why?
It's mentioned so in the classical music books and all.
Hmm. I wonder what the reason is for that. Okay, but go ahead.
I probably think because in the early morning our throat is clear and the stomach is clear, so it's easier to get out the bass voice.
Okay. Maybe. Or maybe like well rested. The voice is well rested.
Yeah. So when I practiced that, I practiced this for around 30 minutes. After that, I started getting this finicky feeling
Okay.
in the chest, which I still have, by the way. It's kind of like an itch
Okay.
inside the chest. So I think you might be aware of that, what it could be.
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. An itch inside the chest. I'm not sure what that might be. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So it's my first bass voice practice, so I don't know.
Did you, how long were you doing it for?
30-40 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Let's see if it, like, do you have that sensation right now?
Yeah,
And this,
it's
and when
here
did you do it? You
somewhere.
did this morning?
Yeah, this morning, like 2 hours before our podcast.
Hmm. And do you do it very loud or is it soft or is it kind of just regular speaking voice volume?
It was very soft actually because
Hmm.
it's early morning, so I didn't want to make too much of a noise.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know what that would be. Not too sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can
So
look.
I'm
Maybe that's something. I wonder if there's like something about that. Um, I'm intrigued to do what we
so let's
typically do
ask
on here
GPT.
to ask
Yeah.
GPT. Um, is it common to get a sensation of an itch, or would you say it's like a burning sensation, or just an itch, or just scratchy? It's just
Itchy.
scratchy.
No, itch would be much more apt.
Like you can't, and you're trying to clear your throat to kind of soothe
No,
or get rid of the
it's
feeling, or
no, actually it's not in the throat, it's in the chest and diaphragm region.
okay. So is it common
And
to get a
the
yeah
practice is called Kharaj. Kharaj.
K-H, what was he say? K-H-A-R-H-A?
Raj.
A-J, my bad. Courage. Courage. Okay. Is it common to get a sensation of an itch in the chest from courage exercises? All right. Let's see what it says. I got to plug in my keyboard. Battery is low. All right. So, what does it say? The sensation of an itch in the chest during Karaj exercises, which are vocal exercises used in Indian classical music to develop vocal resonance and control, is not uncommon. It's not uncommon, so it's common. This
Hmm.
sensation is often experienced as a result of the diaphragmatic breathing and deep vocalization involved in Karaj practice. When performing Karaj exercises, singers typically engage in deep breathing techniques that involve the expansion and contraction of the diaphragm and rib cage. This deep breathing can stimulate nerve endings and sensory receptors in the chest area, leading to sensations such as tingling, warmth, or even itching. Additionally, the vocalization of low pitched tones during Karish exercises requires to requires the engagement of the muscles in the chest and abdomen, which can further contribute to sensations in the chest region. While sensations of itchiness or discomfort in the chest during courage exercises are not usually cause for concern, it's important for singers to pay attention to their body and adjust their technique as needed to avoid strain or injury. So maybe you just overdid it a little bit. If the
Yeah,
sensation persists
it was
or
my first time, so I wasn't aware how long I need to practice it. But yeah, I'll keep it to 15 minutes next time and let's see.
yeah, let's see how that is. If the sensation persists or becomes uncomfortable, it may be advisable to consult a vocal coach or instructor for guidance on proper breathing and vocalization techniques. Yeah. So when you're doing it, maybe also because you did it at a softer volume, you ended up using a little bit more of your whispering voice rather than the
Probably.
more of a fuller extent of just your voice using your diaphragm. And if you use more of the whispering part of your voice, there is more of an opportunity that you could hurt your vocal cords.
Yeah, I've heard that. And it's actually counterintuitive, don't you think so?
Yeah, and somewhat, I would say so. I know when if you have laryngitis, like you really don't want to whisper. People have the tendency to whisper to try to like save their voice or to relax their voice or to just not use it as much. But you're actually putting more strain on your vocal cords. It requires a lot of strain to whisper more than
Mm,
people realize. Yeah.
yeah. So speaking softly can actually hurt somebody's throat.
It depends on how you're speaking. So it depends on the way that you're speaking if you're speaking softly. So if you're still using all of your voice that you would typically use, that's okay. But if you're using this part of your voice, then that actually puts a lot of strain on your vocal cords.
Just just listening to that brought back that itch.
Yeah. Yeah, you could irritate your vocal cords whispering. Whispering is not, it's okay a little bit, it's fine, but it's just like how often do we whisper, right? So our vocal cords are not, I would imagine, I mean, I'm,
Designed
I'm
for
not an expert
whispering.
in
Yeah.
this area, but I would imagine that evolutionarily, we we typically speak like this and don't whisper nearly as much. So I would imagine that our vocal cords are built more to handle our voice at a regular speaking volume and using this sort of tonality rather than whispering. I would think
Mm.
so. I would think so. To me, that just makes sense.
So from evolutionary perspective, gossiping can also be bad because gossiping requires a lot of whispering.
I suppose it depends on how you're gossiping, but maybe, yeah. Gossiping is known to be actually sinful in a lot of cultures.
Hmm. Yeah. Mm, I'm not able to recollect if there was something mentioned about it in our Vedas or Hindu scriptures. But all I can remember is Bura mat bolo, which basically means don't say bad things.
Yeah, I know I'm pretty sure in the Judeo Christian religion, gossiping is considered to be sinful. Yeah, as far as I
Mm.
know.
So it is the eighth sin.
Perhaps. Perhaps.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And just by engaging in social media, most of the people are engaging in that eighth sin unknowingly.
Yeah. Yeah, quite possibly. I'm looking up. Is gossiping considered to be sinful according to certain religions and cultures? Okay. Okay, so perhaps the correct wording that I'm looking for as well is unethical. So yes, gossiping is often considered to be unethical or sinful according to various religious and cultural traditions. Many religious teachings and ethical principles emphasize the importance of refraining from gossiping and speaking ill of others, as it can lead to harm, discord, and negative consequences for individuals and communities. In Christianity, for example, gossiping is often condemned as a violation of the commandments to love one's neighbor and to
Mm.
refrain from bearing false witness against others. Yeah, so there you go. Similarly, in Islam, gossiping, known as ghibah, is considered a major sin and is prohibited by Islamic teachings. So there you go.
Mm. Two of the biggest religions.
Two of the biggest religions. And I mean, there's a direct correlation between Christianity and Judaism because those commandments and are that are referred to in Christianity come from the Old Testament, which is based on the Jewish religion. So
From
yeah,
Moses.
from Moses. That's right. Book of Exodus.
Mhm.
Do you know? Did
Mhm.
you know that Passover is going to be soon? Soon, I think it's next week.
What is the Passover exactly?
Passover is the 22nd of this month. 22nd, 23rd. Well, over here we celebrate it. So Passover is the story of Moses uh, freeing the Hebrews from the land of Egypt as slaves.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
So
Exodus, basically.
Exodus, yeah, the book of Exodus, the second book. So the reason why it's called Passover is because there were a variety of plagues that were cast upon the Egyptians. And the last plague, which was the final straw for the Egyptians that was a deciding factor for them to allow to let the Hebrew people go out of the land of Egypt. That last sin was slaying of the firstborn.
Oh,
So, in order to ensure, because the angel of death wouldn't be able to figure out who, like, which people to to
exonerate.
yeah to well to like the idea behind the story is that the angel of death wouldn't be able to figure out like who is who, like, and so am I, like it would just slay all the firstborn of anybody that was in the land of Egypt, whether they're Hebrew or Egyptian or anybody else. So the idea is to, God said, on your doorways you're going to sacrifice a lamb and you're going to put lamb's blood on the tops of your doorways. So that way, when
Mm.
the angel of death passes over the land of Egypt, it would see the lamb's blood on top of the doorway, and it would be identify which houses to pass over and which ones not to. So
Gotcha.
that's why the holiday is called Passover.
I see. Now, interestingly, just 2 days back, Muslims all over the world celebrated Eid,
Mm,
which is
right.
quite similar because they have to sacrifice a goat or a lamb as well.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of similarities between religions. Now, interestingly enough, during Passover, uh, Jewish people, they will have what's called a Passover Seder, which is a series of traditions that you take part in as whoever's happens to be there at the time for this Passover Seder, which is a dinner essentially. Then you have these traditions that you take part in. So some of it is reading through the story of Exodus and some songs, some prayers, some giving thanks, and then you have your dinner. And but by when you go through these prayers, there's certain items of significance that are food items that are related to the story. So as you go through the story, you have specific food items or you reference certain food items that are on the table. So you have a very
Okay.
traditional dinner. And what's interesting is, do you know what the last, are you familiar with the Last Supper?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a famous painting or mural that was created representing the Last
By Da
Supper.
Vinci.
That's right. And that Last Supper was actually a Passover Seder.
Okay.
It was done during the time of Passover. But what Jesus decided to do is he changed a whole bunch of the traditions and adjusted them in order to kind of suit what his teachings were. So he had a different take on a lot of the things that were happening in a lot of the traditions in the Jewish religion, in the Jewish culture. A lot of those things he was altering them in order to.
Gotcha. So that is the night where Judaism kind of turned into Christianity.
I don't know if that was the night because I think the night, as far as I know, I think the night where it was because the Last Supper was supposed to be a representation of his last meal, essentially saying like, they're coming to get me. This is it for me, and I need you to kind of carry on my legacy, type of thing. And I think, I mean, arguably, maybe Christianity really started once the crucifixion happened. And then
Mm.
maybe even you can argue it actually happened once as the story goes, Jesus rose from the dead, and
On the third day.
on the third day, whenever it was. Again, I'm not an expert in this area, but I think I remember the stories fairly well.
Mm.
And I think when he arose, then that's really when the religion actually started to. That's when it started, I guess. As far as I know, maybe I'm wrong. If anybody is, we should have mentioned this too. Actually, we forgot to mention this right from the get go,
Oh,
which I think is a good habit to get into. If you're
to
watching
address our
this,
viewers.
yeah, to address our viewers, if you're watching this, feel free to leave a comment on this and correct me if I'm wrong. And also, if you're watching this, what are you doing? You're going against the whole purpose of this podcast and what we're trying to do here. We're not like, our goal is to have no viewers, no subscribers, no likes, no comments. That's the real purpose of why we're doing this. We're not wanting to be like every other channel that asks you to subscribe and asks you to comment and like to boost their content. No, no, no. We don't do that over here. We just we see that this video is available to view and we just pass right over it. We ignore it. Right?
These viewers are ruining our channel.
Yeah. What are you doing?
You're ruining all the hard effort, hard work that we are putting in.
Exactly. Exactly. So, in any case, that's the story, and don't comment about it, and don't like any of this content, and go do something else. Go do something else. Come on, there's so many other videos and channels of interesting content to watch. This is not what you want to be doing. Let's be real. All right. I was
Okay,
talking.
speaking of Last Supper,
Yeah.
uh, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I've heard a version of it which may or may not be correct. So the Last Supper was the meal where everyone gathered and Jesus had invited Magdalene, right?
Yes.
Mary Magdalene.
Right.
So other religious people did not like it because she was not from a decent background.
Yes. That's very political of you to say it that way.
So yeah, so that is the reason they basically conspired Jesus' crucifixion the same night.
Um, I don't think that that's the reason. I think there were a lot of reasons, as far as I can tell.
Mm,
And there were many, many, many reasons. I think a lot of it was the fact that he was considered to be highly rebellious.
mm.
Yeah, because the
So basically, he
main,
was challenging Judaism. So
I
that was
think,
the main reason.
I think that's what it came from. Really, a big part. Not, and I don't think it was necessarily just Judaism that he was challenging. I think he was also challenging like the status quo for a lot of the ways that things were done traditionally at that time. Uh, he just had a different way of thinking, and it sounds like there was a dictatorship at that time. So if you thought differently, that means you were not supportive of leadership, which was probably was from my understanding was considered to be a form of treason, and then you were like a criminal essentially.
So like just like Galileo and Copernicus.
Yeah, I think that still goes on nowadays. I think there's a lot of things
Yeah,
that are going on
true, true.
nowadays where if you think differently, then you could be labeled a particular way, just based upon the fact that certain ideologies are being automatically connected to ideologies that don't really have a connection, but people are finding a connection to those things. And then if you don't support this ideology, that automatically means that you know, not supporting another ideology
Good.
because people have decided there's a connection between the two things. So I think that's kind of stuff is always going to happen. I don't think you can get away from that kind of stuff, but I think it's really important to always have a good mixture and balance of people that challenge the status quo. I think there's a lot of danger in too many people thinking the same way.
Autocracy.
Yeah. I sort of think about it like you cut down a forest and you plant just one tree.
Hmm.
You
So
know,
you can't just have a maple forest.
yeah. And the reason why that's dangerous to do is because if something happens where there's some sort of disease attacking the maple tree, the whole forest is going to suffer. So if you have a nice mixture of nice variety, then if you lose a variety of maple trees, well, you won't lose all the trees in the forest.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So I think ways of thinking are very much the same. You need a nice variety.
Yeah. So the kind of explanation that you just gave, I'm surprised these explanations haven't been put into words so far.
Maybe they
Like why
have.
is, and if they are, then the question is why they aren't in the school books, or why aren't they made popular by the cultures?
Well, I wonder how curriculum is decided upon in schools. Like, who's
I
deciding
think
what to teach kids? Like, how is that decision made? Where's it coming from?
I feel there should be more of philosophy involved in school syllabus.
I agree. There should be a lot of stuff taught, like
Mm.
how to be financially literate, how
Mm.
to properly connect with people, and how to network.
Yeah, I think we
How,
have spoken about this.
yeah,
I also felt that Excel sheet should be a mandatory curriculum.
that's funny. I think in high school, at least the high school that I went to, almost everybody learned how to use an Excel spreadsheet to some fundamental level.
Okay, I still come across people who are completely unaware about the Excel sheet. It has a lot of potential. It can even be used for basic accounting, basic stuff, and people are not aware of that.
Yeah,
So I feel it should be a part of curriculum.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, there should be a lot. So again, I wonder how this decision is being made, like what to teach, what exactly to teach in schools. Where are those decisions coming from? Because I don't think they're coming from like the public. I don't think there's like this determined public demand for a certain curriculum and then schools decide that they're going to teach it unless it's like a private school, maybe. But
Mm.
I mean public schools, ones that are I don't know about what it's like there, but here public schools are government funded, which are funded basically through the tax dollars of citizens. And I'm pretty sure the decision to teach particular sets of curriculum is coming from the government.
Mm.
And I think
We
that
ha-
that's a
we have a
problem.
mixed mode. We have a mixed mode here. So the schools here are private. That is all the profit and The decisions are made by certain group of people, and then the curriculum, it comes from the government. The regulations come from the government, and there is a board which sets the curriculum. So no matter how private your school is, no matter how big of an investment you make, you still have to follow the curriculum that the government is providing.
Yeah,
So it's a mixed
absolutely.
model.
Absolutely, yeah. Same here, same here. But I think in private schools, there's some level of there's some level of freedom to decide on additional curriculum that because there's maybe other avenues to gain funding that public schools don't have. And then therefore they can afford to invest in certain programs that public schools cannot.
Yeah, but sadly, they do not take the advantage of that. I would say they take the misadvantage of that. They have the room to develop a lot of extracurricular activities, but they just decide to take rest of the money home.
Are you talking about private schools or public schools?
Private schools.
I'm sure there's quite a bit of that, but I know that I know at least here there's again likely there's a good amount of that happening, but I think also there is the ability to. I mean, I know some kids that are in private schools, and I know they get access to certain programs that you just do not get in a public school.
Hmm.
Like whether it's like I know that one of this one kid that I know is going to a private school where they offer a auto engineering program
Hmm.
where you can learn like that side of mechanical engineering in terms of automotive. So that's pretty interesting. So you'll actually learn like how to change tires and take tires off of a rim and how to do body work and how to do some level of welding and so
So basic auto mechanics.
some basic auto mechanics, yeah, which is pretty cool. Which is pretty cool. You'll definitely won't be able to learn that in a public school, at least here.
Yeah, I'm yet to find a school which offers a variety of extracurricular activities.
Yeah, I mean, extracurricular in public schools here, they'll offer extracurricular. So after school programs or lunch hour programs or before school programs, things like that. But I'm talking about like programs that you can take that are not extracurricular, that are part of the curriculum. They're part of the overall curriculum. So you can make certain choices. You can decide to take this program and it can be used towards credits for you to be able to use for your overall schooling. So you have like choices, like you have to take these mandatory classes, but then you also have room for some selection of classes that could take up your schedule and provide credit towards your overall schooling. There's room left for that. Yeah. And I mean, there is that level of flexibility in public schools again as well, especially once you get to, your grade 9, 10, 11, 12. You do have some level of flexibility, and that helps you kind of decide on a direction you might want to take. But there isn't the same level of funding, so you don't have the same level of variety. Like your variety is like either you take calculus, algebra, geometry, or physics, or you
Hmm.
take chemistry, biology. You know what I mean? Like, so those are your choices. Whereas it's not, um, again, just not as much variety.
So what do you suggest? What can help balance this out?
I don't know if there is a way to balance it out. I mean, I think that the only that balances it out in terms of educating yourself at a young age, right now, anyways, is to take those extracurricular curricular programs after school, before school. But I think that there should at least be some fundamental classes in soft skill development for kids at a
Agree.
very early age. Rather than spending so much time learning maths that you could incorporate into, you know, like,
Corporate life.
yeah, like for instance, like, why are you learning trigonometry at such an early age? Like, if you had to choose between teaching kids trigonometry, and again, I understand like you're teaching complex ideas, and because you're teaching those complex ideas, it helps to, it's not about what you're learning a lot of times. It's about the fact that you're learning something complex. It helps for brain development, helps you problem solve, understand complex issues and how to learn them. You're learning how to learn. I get that. But at the same time, I think there needs to be, again, that balance between learning how to learn and learning some fundamental skills that are practical that you like, that learn them early on in your life will actually provide a lot of value for the rest of your life. And if you don't learn them early on in your life, it could actually be a detriment to you later on.
True.
Yeah. So, yeah. And there's so many of those, like how to communicate effectively with people, how to
Public
act.
speaking.
Well, at least here there is like a good amount of opportunities to do public speaking, and they will teach you public speaking in different scenarios. But I'm talking about like how to communicate like one on one with people and connect with somebody. How to express empathy. What does that look like?
So to develop EQ.
Yeah. How to effectively actively listen to people. How to like be how to make yourself professionally attractive in the job marketplace. How to do your taxes. How to be financially literate. I think that those are really
How to be
valuable.
a good seller.
Yeah. Um, the importance of contributing to your family, like in terms of helping your family in terms of maybe chores around the house, or like understanding the importance of these things, and like actually coming with like projects for kids where they have to, get really good at organizing their environment. Things like that. I think there's a lot of use in teaching things like that.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And I feel 10 to 15 years of age, that is the ideal age to teach such things.
Hmm. At 10 to 15, because then you're talking about, what is that, grades? Because in grade one,
6 to
you're
10.
six.
6 to 10.
Yeah. 6 to 10. Yeah. So I agree. That makes sense. You could probably even do it a little bit earlier than that, potentially. Some of those things. Some of those things. Not everything, but some things. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. But I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I don't.
I hope that happens because I've mentioned this before that it's kind of my passion. And if I ever get a chance to make that happen on a large scale, I would take that opportunity.
Yeah. I think that there's the ability to do that from extracurricular perspective. There's some great companies out there that provide uh, everyday folks that don't have a teaching certificate to put together a program for youth to teach those types of skills to them. So I think those might just end up as extracurriculars, uh,
Mhm.
as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I think it would require a revamp, kind of, because once we say it is an extracurricular activity, it immediately falls as a default activity or something that can be put on the back burner,
Yep.
at least in the head of the parents.
Of course, 100%. Yeah, if you're not making it mandatory, which again, I agree it should be mandatory, but if you're not making it mandatory, then the chances of, I mean, some parents might take advantage of it, some might not, and some might want to, but they just can't afford it, or they don't have the time, or the kids would rather do other things, which is understandable.
But to be very honest, it's not that they do not have time, it's not that they do not have money. I would say most of the parents who can send their kids to school can afford this kind of improvement.
Mm,
It comes down to how important they feel that it, or how useful it is going to be for the kids. So
right.
to educate the kids, first we have to educate the parents, and that becomes a big challenge.
For sure.
And even once you counsel the parents about it, they are bound to take advice from their peers and someone maybe their relatives, and they are gonna end up, advise against it, because again they still are not counseled.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that 100%. Um, yeah. And it's all about setting, like, I mean, the whole reason for the education system to exist in the first place really was to set kids up, people up, to become adults that can provide back to the economy,
In a good
essentially,
way.
in a good way. Yeah. They can be productive members of society and can produce. And I think, listen, like, there are obviously always going to be a lot of kids that are going to come out of their schooling and understand how to be a productive member of society. But there's a lot of kids that aren't, because, like, this is just what I think. Obviously, I'm not basing this off of any studies or anything like that, but I would imagine there's a lot of kids that are not getting the opportunity to learn those things, maybe because they can't afford the type of post secondary continuing education that other kids can, that end up kind of gathering those skills because they're in a certain environment in order to be able to do that, whereas other kids are not. So I think, again, those fundamental skills at a very early age,
Mm,
especially for those kids that might not be able to have the advantage to to further their education, at least if they have those really fundamental skills, I think it gives them at least the opportunity to leverage those in order to become more productive members of society. Again, like, for those kids that can't continue their education the same way, what's going to be more useful for them? To understand trigonometry, or to be able to connect really well with people, network, and
mm.
create their own opportunities, maybe even understand how to create a job for themselves, essentially be an entrepreneur, if they can't gain the type of education that is required in order to get those positions that other kids can, because they can't afford that
Mm.
higher education. So,
So this is kind of the follow up question. If we too, who are, let's say, not even powerful and not even that qualified, let's say, if we can understand the importance of that,
mhm.
why can't the people sitting in the power or deciding the curriculum, why don't they get this? Or what are they seeing that we are not seeing?
I'm sure there's a lot of people that do. I bet, I would imagine there's a lot of bureaucracy. In order to make a change, you got to work with a lot of different people. And there's a lot of different processes to go through in order to make the smallest amount of change. So it becomes overly challenging. And I think people get comfortable. They get comfortable in their position. They look at the challenge. They're like, I don't want to have to go through that much challenge in order to make these changes. I don't want to have to jump through all these hoops. I'm comfortable in my position. I could do that, or I could just continue doing what I'm doing. And because it's not affecting them directly.
All right. So then that would raise the question, what kind of challenges are there in this bureaucracy? Because again, we would expect that these bureaucratic people, they would have some basic understanding of education if they have the power to make the change go through or stop. So they might have some basic understanding.
Sure.
So is it possible that they are missing that understanding, or there is
I
some
don't.
gap in communication?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess no. I'm gonna guess there's probably a good understanding of how valuable it is to do that, but there's probably just it's probably not just like people in the education system. It's like there's probably so many people that are not in the education system that have to be included in those decisions as well. I would imagine because you're dealing with government, right? So you're probably
Hmm.
dealing with a lot of folks that are not in positions where they understand the education system all that well.
Yeah,
But at the same time, they have positions of power where they can allow certain, they can sort of
gotcha,
be that,
gotcha.
they're kind of that gatekeeper for those certain decisions.
So
Um,
basically, what they see, the decision makers, they are not seeing the usefulness. They are seeing the all the hard work that is going to come with the change.
maybe. I think there's probably a bit of that. If I'm going to guess, again, this is all speculation. Like, I'm not an expert in this area at all, but I'm going to speculate that there's probably a lot of people who look at the amount of work and process that you'd have to go through in order to put forth these changes, and it's a lot of time, a lot of effort. Maybe even they might be in a situation where they're concerned that their job is on the line, if
Hmm.
or maybe their reputation is on the line if they sort of raise these, because you're talking again about this idea about being this rebel, right? So if you're stirring the pot, you might have the concern of ruffling feathers of more powerful people than you. Maybe that might put your job on the line. You have a family to take care of. They depend on the income from this job, so it's better just go with the status quo. There's these biases that we have, right? Of conformity bias. Are you familiar with conformity bias?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that there might be a bunch of that too. Might be a bunch of conformity bias going on as well. So again, all speculation, but I think I don't know, in my mind that makes sense. I mean, there's got to be at least a little bit of that. I don't think there's any way there's zero of any of that. And there's got to be even a tiny bit of that going on.
Hmm.
So that's what I think.
Yeah,
I don't
makes
know.
sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a big challenge to bring a radical change like that.
So, and like the question is, can you do that like incrementally somehow? Very, very, very incrementally. Like decide on one
Yeah.
thing. And maybe that's kind of already happening in a way, but it's happening so slowly and way
Hmm.
slower than we would like that it almost seems
Yeah.
unnoticeable.
Yeah, and when things happen that slow, they kind of seem, you know, not that fascinating, or rather discouraging.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. But I guess I mean there is some of that. Like here's a good example. I don't know if you had this in your schooling, but I know in my high school, so grade 9, 10, 11, a lot of kids, specifically the girls, were taking classes where they were learning how to raise a child. So they would get like
Home
a little,
homemade.
yeah, and they would get like a little baby, a doll that's like a baby, and the baby would cry on a timer, and you'd have to determine based upon the cries if it needed a nap, if it needed something to eat, and then because it's like supposed to represent an infant, you everything is the interactions are even as if you had this infant for real. So you'd have to be able to determine like when it's time to breastfeed. So you're literally like holding up the baby to you,
Mm.
pretending like it's breastfeeding for a certain amount of time, like to get the real sense of what it's like to have an infant. So I think that that's great. Like programs like that are fantastic, right? I think there's a
Well,
lot of use and value in providing that type of
see,
education.
well, in India, I think that would not be accepted because in India we always have a baby around. We have so much population that
Mm,
there's a baby being born every second probably.
it's
So
funny.
So I think every person around here has been around a baby
Mm,
every week or so. I can say that pretty confidently
right. So there's
because
already
I can
this.
see at least 5, 10 babies in my neighborhood. So I don't think a homemade class would be something that it would be of a necessity here.
Right. Right. That makes sense. But
Mhm.
I guess my point is that yeah, there are programs like that, and I suppose there are people like then that means that there clearly are folks that are seeing the value of these types of programs. But I guess there just
Hmm.
needs to be more of them. I think there should be a lot more of those types of programs. And I don't know, like I am out of touch. Admittedly, I'm out of touch with what programs are currently going on in the public school system right now, and maybe some of these, maybe there's been a lot more of those developed. I'm not too sure, but as far as I can tell, there should be, I think, still more of those.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now, I asked you a question. I think a few days ago. I was very
Hmm.
interested to learn about the job market in
Sure.
in India, and um, I'll tell you why. I think I told you a little bit why already, but and it was something that I was going to just discuss with you over chat. But I think it's cool to bring it up here too. Right now
Hmm.
in Toronto, the job market is, let's say, lacking quite a
Hmm.
bit. It's really tough for a lot of people to find a position. I think I don't know if it's just in Toronto. I don't think it's just Toronto. I think it's I think there's a lot of that going on in the United States as well and throughout Canada. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but I have some exposure to those markets, and I can see that there is a struggle with a lot of people to try to find a position right now. There's been a lot of layoffs from a lot of different industries, especially the tech sector is hardest hit. So I was very curious to know like what's going on there. What is the job market like? Because I think I mentioned this before, but right now I'm in a position where I'm trying to find actually like a permanent role for myself.
Hmm.
And the Toronto job market, I think again, the North American job market is just challenging as a whole at the moment. So I'm really looking overseas, like what exists also other places. Maybe looking somewhere else, being somewhere else might just make, being where the jobs are. That might make sense to consider, to at least consider and think about and investigate. So I don't know. What do you think? What's it like there? What's going on in India in the job
Hmm.
market and in the professional job market?
Right. So first of all, to summarize, as I've already said, if you are experienced and if you are in IT sector, you are gold. You are
Mm-hmm.
gold standard. You are desirable. You are an asset. But if you are in IT sector and you're not experienced, you are relatively fresher and you haven't had experience in different sectors or varieties of technologies, then probably you are disposable or replaceable. This is what my observation has been in the recent years because I'm mostly in touch with my friends who are in IT sector who are experienced. They are all basically on managerial levels.
Right. Okay.
So they are already an asset. They if they send out a resume right now, they'll be easily hired by any other company with a good pay rise and perks and all. So I know they are currently the gold standard, but
Right.
the others who came after them, they are currently struggling. They are under the stress of, you know, they never know when they are going to be laid off.
Right.
So some are moonlighting, some are basically sending out resumes, some are preparing backups, some are even uh, leaving IT altogether.
So you're saying that the IT sector is doing the best out of every sector currently there.
Not exactly that way. But in job profile, yes. But business wise, there are other sectors that are doing much better. But when you go into those sectors, I think most of the profiles are easily replaceable.
Right.
Somehow in IT, you are not that easily replaceable once you are set in your position. This is what I've observed. So if you are, let's say, a project manager in a IT firm and you are a project manager in some manufacturing company, there is more likelihood of being replaced in the production company.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Okay. And where do you where we if somebody was looking for a role, let's say as a project manager,
Mm-hmm.
uh, in India, how would you? And they're a foreigner, so they're not. Do you think somebody would have a chance to compete against folks who are native to the country?
Definitely, because companies are always on the look for someone who has a vast variety of experience. So having an outside perspective is definitely going to help them if they are on board with that kind of perspective. So yeah, you have more than 50% of chance of being a project manager in an Indian company.
And if somebody was, I'm totally talking about myself, clearly. Uh, if somebody was looking to research some really good companies that they could potentially find a position in, how could they go about that research? What's the easiest way to find out what would be a suitable match potentially for that person?
Okay, the first solution obviously would be Naukri.com, just like there's Monster over there.
What's it called?
Naukri, Naukri.
Naukri. I'm gonna look this up later.
Sure.
N A.
Naukri is basically translation of job.
Okay.
So
Naukri.com.
Naukri.com, it's one of the oldest websites of India, and it's for
Okay.
obviously to find jobs. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll get a good exposure out of it.
Naukri.com. I'm putting it in here for us to view. Okay. Interesting. All right. Employer login. Naukri hiring suite. Enter skills designation companies. Got it. So if I wanted to search, let's say project manager, project management,
Mm.
search. Let's see what pops up. Nokia. Interesting. So this one, for instance, IT project manager at IKEA or Nokia, I should say,
Mm.
in Bengaluru in New Delhi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, not in New Delhi. This is just one of the locations: Kolkata, Mumbai, New Delhi, Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, and Bengaluru. Okay, got it.
So all these cities are metro cities, and these are all mega cities as well, and IT hubs as well.
Cool. Role category: technology, IT. Okay. Maybe I will investigate this as an option.
Mm.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would suggest go about it like 1 hour a day because it can get quite overwhelming seeing the number of options.
For sure. For sure. For sure. And I suppose like networking with people would be
Yeah,
advisable as well.
I'm not sure if networking helps, at least in India.
Mhm.
LinkedIn is there for sure. Linked people, I've seen people using it, but I have never heard a story of, you know, having a successful networking experience from there.
Mhm.
So I don't know. But yeah, if you get to talk to people over the call or something or video conference, that would help you in networking much more. That is my feeling.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Yeah, it helps. Yeah, like I said, I think there's a lot of people out there that are struggling right now to
Mm,
find a variety of different types of roles, professional roles. And I think a lot of people don't maybe have the ability or capacity to look elsewhere besides locally for the most part.
mm,
And luckily, the world has gotten a lot smaller. And I think that if it is possible to investigate other options in other places, if you have the ability to do that, I mean, it just there's more there's more chance for a door to be open to you. That's what I think.
certainly,
Yeah,
certainly.
yeah, yeah. What do you think you would do for work if you were not teaching physics?
I think currently I would look for something like curriculum developer. It is actually a role. So yeah, I would work on skills that are needed for that role, and I would go for that.
What would you do if it was not anything based in the education industry or
Then
sector?
that would be hard to decide. I would probably be doing some kind of business
Hmm. Do you like the idea
because
of running your own business?
yeah, some kind of business. Not sure what. It could be trading something, a commodity maybe, uh, or it could be a specific product that the market needs. Or maybe I would invent something. Yeah,
Hmm.
I would invent a product that market needs, and I'd be selling it, wholesaling it,
What do you think
or
the
maybe
market
even exporting it.
What do you think the market needs right now? And what market needs it?
Let me think. Uh, the first thing that comes to mind is healthy food, but there is already a lot of healthy food which is unhealthy food actually, which is sold as healthy food. So I think people are not yet ready for healthy packaged food, but there is definitely a need for that.
Hmm.
So
But what's
to
where?
count
What about the
to counter
demand
that
though?
need, yeah. So to counter that need, this is something that just came to mind.
Hmm.
I've seen vending machines in Japan that dispense these healthy food options.
Hmm.
So in India, we do not have that yet. If we
Okay.
can get such vending machines that can dispense healthy and fresh food, maybe that is gonna, just pick up or hit the right spot.
Hmm.
So that is what I feel is currently needed, a healthy vending machine.
You think that would take off quite well there?
I feel so. If they are placed correct, like in the public places, in railway stations, in malls, if they are positioned well, then they'll just pick up right.
I'm looking it up. Healthy food vending machines. It came up Singapore. Singapore's first healthy vending machine. Healthy vending .sg box green. Singapore's first healthy snacks and drinks vending machine. Okay. Oh, you can own a part of the business, or you can just invest for some passive income. I want to see what the machines look like. Machine options. Okay, you just have to scroll down. All right, so it looks like a typical vending machine. But like, what's inside? Want to see the products? Can't really see. Oh, here we go. Our snacks. Okay, so like fruits, vegetables, nuts. Yeah, but there's not like a lot of. Doesn't really show the products in enough detail on that website. See what else there is. Little Delight. Vendinghub.com.sg. Yeah, but this isn't healthy food. This is just regular snacks and drinks. Yeah, it seems like it's not that popular yet. And it's hard for me to tell like what is classified as healthy. Because anything processed, like a lot of packaged food tends to be processed food. And processed food, I think we're fairly well aware, tends not to be the healthiest, even if it's contains
Mm.
healthy types of ingredients.
Yeah,
Um,
that is why the food nowadays is categorized in three categories. It's the processed, then there's healthy, and then there is healthier, which is basically the processed form of healthy food, which is certainly better than other snacking options.
hmm.
So something like packed peanuts. A pack of peanuts is certainly healthier than going for a pizza.
Unsalted, though. Oh, look at this one.
Yeah.
World's first Norwegian salmon ATM.
Mm.
I never thought I'd live to see raw fish being dispensed out of a machine. So they're dispensing raw fish. Yeah, so I mean, that's
Yeah.
doable because it's just a fridge
Yeah. So
or freezer,
that is
whatever.
what yeah, so that is what I feel is lacking over here, because this is the first thing that I saw in Japan, and Japan is certainly known to be a healthy country.
Mm.
The average BMI is certainly way low.
This one dispenses hot and delicious 12-inch pizzas.
Yeah, much healthier.
That's wild. So it has like an oven inside of it, and then it puts all
Mhm.
the ingredients on the pizza. I mean, you could definitely engineer that. I could see how that could
Mm,
work. You could probably engineer almost anything to come out of a vending machine.
right.
You just have robots do all that work within the vending machine itself. Just add the ingredients all together, put it into an oven, heat it up, cook it, and then have just come down like a little tiny conveyor belt down to a slot that opens up. That's kind of
Mm,
cool. That's a pretty cool idea.
mm.
And you think that would do? I don't know if that would do very well here. Do you think that's too gimmicky? Or do you think that there would be an actual demand for that? Do you think people would go like, "Oh, thank God they brought this here. Like this
Like in
provides
India,
it
I'm
fulfills a
pretty sure
need."
snacking is a big thing. Snacking is everybody is snacking for sure.
Right.
But what they are usually snacking is anything that is conveniently available.
Right. But meals, a meal coming out of a vending machine. Do you think people would be like, "Oh, this is awesome. Thank God that
No,
they."
no, certainly not. Meals, it won't work for meals. It
Yeah.
would be just a quick running snack.
Yeah.
Like I said, a bag of peanuts,
Yeah.
that would be a quick running snack.
A whole pizza coming out wouldn't do very well.
Yeah. And people would be very skeptical about the quality of the pizza.
For sure. And also, like, are you like, how long does it take to get that pizza? Because it has to be like
Mm.
cooked. So you're gonna put your money in, and then you're just gonna wait in front of the vending machine until it's done for like, I don't know, 10,
Or
15 minutes.
or how long has it been there?
Yeah, or is it already
That would
like pretty much cooked and just waiting for somebody to purchase it? and then just
Mm,
heats it up
yeah,
for like a minute or two, and then
yeah, that would be a disaster for sure.
yeah,
So definitely healthier foods, vending machine, that would be certainly something that I could invest in.
like a salad. Salad, do you think?
Mm,
Or wraps,
yeah,
maybe a wrap.
yeah, there are dried fruit.
Hmm.
I'm sure you might
Dried
have
fruit is good
tried
too. Yeah,
those.
sure, of course. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love dried
so,
fruit.
so a
Yeah,
bag of dried fruits.
yeah, that's good. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So that's what you would do if you weren't teaching. You
Yeah, if
would,
I had to decide, yeah,
yeah,
like if I had to decide that I have to start something, that would be something I would be inclined towards.
right. Okay, that makes sense. But you'd rather do something in education. It sounds like.
Yeah, as of now,
Yeah.
I'm still undecided in any direction.
Okay. Well, you don't have any pressure to figure it out right now, do you?
Hmm, true. I'm floating currently.
You're going with the flow.
Hmm.
That's good. All right, I'm gonna cut this conversation a little bit short today because you wouldn't realize, but I am a bit under the weather today. So I'm
Oh,
yeah. So I'm definitely needing to get some rest earlier than I typically would. But we'll pick this up next week. Always
yeah, it's
enjoyable.
perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, likewise. I
yeah.
hope you have a good rest and recover pretty soon.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for this discussion. As always, thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to hang out more next time. And I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, totally likewise. And have a good weekend. See ya.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.